This is the Honda Indy 200 in Mid-Ohio. Great start, Colton Herta.
Colton Herta, great jump. Graham Rahal able to go in line with him, but on the outside there, Alex Palou trying to make a move. He's around Kyle Kirkwood, who's now coming back on the outside of 5.
Kirkwood to the outside. He'll have the advantage at the next apex. That pink Auto Nation car forcefully holding on to third as Marcus Ericsson and Felix Rosenqvist come together.
The two Swedish drivers collide, and that is not a great opening lap here at Mid-Ohio for the Chip Ganassi racer and the McLaren man. Yellow is out.
So you see Ericsson there on the inside of turn 6. Yeah, he was just wide. I mean, Felix gave him room, it looked like, on the inside. Missed the apex a bit.
Here we go, and Kyle Kirkwood is sizing up. Look at that pink car. He's sizing up Graham Rahal through turn 1, the resurfaced turn 1, climbing the hill to the keyhole in turn 2. Colton Herta leads the field back to green. There's been a change within the top 3. Very hard fight between this man here, Kyle Kirkwood, in the Auto Nation Honda for Andretti Autosport, and the points leader, Alex Palou. How refreshing this must be for Graham Rahal, racing at the front of an IndyCar field. Where does he come out in comparison to Colton Herta?
Right now, you'll be racing him to the keyhole.
The words from Rob Edwards, you're going to be racing him to the keyhole. That race is on.
Graham's not going to be able to defend Colton Herta on hot tires as he goes sailing by.
Under brakes, does Rahal switch back? He can't.
Look at
cold tires.
Look at how far up the road Pato Award has gotten there. That is amazing. Award right there with Rahal.
He's coming in from second this lap. The driver is dominant as we've seen in a while. Last 4 races, nobody's been better. 3 wins. Alex Palou is back out. Let's see how much time he made up in that in-lap.
Boy, that fueler didn't have to fill as much as I thought. Palou is out and to the front easily. Scott Dixon is going to exit pit lane just ahead of Colton Herta. I don't know if he'll be able to hold him off, but Dixon and Power have position right now.
This is Power to Chip Ganassi Racing. How about that for a pit stop cycle?
So Power's going to give Colton Herta a little bit of a hard time in keyhole, but I don't think Dixon has tire temperature yet.
Back straight drag race. If he goes to the inside, Herta will swoop around the outside, and that's what's happening.
This is tough. You can pull it off on the outside here. It is banked. He's got a nice car length advantage. Easily done. Colton Herta had to make those moves happen.
Here is Colton Herta.
Oh!
Now what we're going to watch here is where does Herta come out in relation to Scott Dixon? Because last time the two of them were on track, they were right together.
Herta almost lost it, Kevin, on pit entry. Maybe a little bit of a wet spot there. And he'll be battling with Dixon as he comes up to the hill to the keyhole along with Christian Lundgaard.
Dixon at speed, the others building their speed. Dixon gets Lundgaard off his list straight away. But Herta has an advantage, so this might be a back straight duel down into turn 4. This is going to be epic.
Not for long. Those cold Firestones are tough to handle on the outlap. Dixon with the advantage. Both drivers will be on push to pass.
Herta's going to fight hard here, Hinch.
He's only got a 1-lap advantage heat-wise.
Penalty there. You got to drive through this time.
Oh,
Colton Herta.
We saw.
Yeah, the pit lane speed bus didn't work.
It's gone again. The chance of victory has gone again for Colton Herta. 2 races in succession.
Graham Rahal in. They went to, he stalled. It went to slightly scuffed blacks, but it's not going to matter because Rahal stalls leaving. Actually was waiting on the left rear. You see it there. That's going to cost Rahal some more time.
Total disaster for the front row to start this race. Rahal and Herta both with huge issues on their final stop under green flag conditions. It is a tough, tough pill to swallow.
14 laps to go here. Things are getting tight, but they're not that tight at the front at all for Alex Palou. He's got an 11.5-second lead, and he is tucked in behind Connor Daly, who is obviously the last car on the lead lap.
4 laps to go. Joseph Newgarden looking now on the inside of 11. This is not a place you pass.
Slight little kiss there.
Oh, this is a tough move to make on the outside of the final corner.
Teammate on teammate here. Grosjean's going to try and bulldoze his way through. Contact again with Di Francesco. Here comes VK. VK!
Whoa.
3 in a row. Hello, Palou. Alex does it again. Extends his championship lead and wins here at Mid-Ohio.
3 in a row. Let's go. Thank you, boys.
Watch the Honda Indy Toronto, Sunday, July 16th at 1:30 p.m. on Peacock Premium.
Yay, you gotta unmute yourself.
There we go. Welcome. And with that, welcome to the Push to Pass podcast. I am Derek Vance, and joining me here, as usual, to recap what a exciting, if you're an Alex Palou fan, exciting Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. Josh Roberts is here as well. And Josh, it seems like it's been forever since we were on last. A lot of racing took place this weekend, not only from Mid-Ohio, but an exciting and huge event took place in Chicago with NASCAR this past weekend as well. But first, we'll get to the IndyCar stuff. Josh, how was your weekend, and what did you think of the race?
My weekend was hot. It's been hot here in Indy, and it's been hot all over the country, I believe. But it was a fun race to watch. Once again, another track I'm getting familiar with. It was an expectable. It was a expected result. I thought Palou was going to win. That makes 4 of the last 5, and he was competitive in the fifth one. Um, uh, practice was crazy. We had had a car go flipping a couple times, barrel rolling. Thank God that that driver was able to walk away from that crash, and even though he wasn't able to race on Sunday, he's upright and walking, so that's a good thing. For the race, it was for the most part, it was a clean race that I saw. It didn't, they were competitive, but nobody was really pushing too hard. They were all driving within good control of the cars. So can't wait. Toronto's in a couple weeks, so we'll be, after we get done talking about Mid Ohio, we'll be moving on to the Canadian territories.
Yeah, definitely a lot of storylines. I think going in to last weekend. Obviously, we've talked a lot about this year about Alex Palou. Or not, excuse me. We've talked a lot about him. We've talked a lot about Pato Award as well. If you've seen the speed charts Friday, he found himself at the top. So a good way to start his weekend. But interesting Saturday that he had. An interesting Saturday, obviously for a lot of drivers. One in particular, Simon Pagenaud. I know you. I believe you were at work, if memory serves me correctly, on Saturday, so you didn't get to see this until I sent it to you. But watching that live, that had to be one of the most horrendous crashes that I've ever seen. It brings back, and I know the Peacock, the television side, touched on it as well, that Michael Andretti basically wrecked in almost the same exact spot there a few years back. But just the amount of barrel rolling so first of all, if you don't know what happened, Simon Pagenaud apparently had a manufacturer error, which I believe it was the brakes, and Honda took full responsibility for that. He was going obviously at a high rate of speed into one of the turns there in Mid-Ohio, didn't have any brakes. So basically he goes off the track. If you haven't seen the video, go check this out. He goes completely airborne and then hits the gravel trap and barrel rolls 6.5 times, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, 6.5 times, and then comes to rest right there at the tire barrier. And after seeing that, I know you had a reaction to that, but just my initial, and we'll get into a little bit more. I don't think Dallara, gets enough credit, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But Pagenaud being able to walk away from such a horrendous crash where you're barrel rolling 6.5 times just to walk away, and He obviously wasn't cleared for the race on Sunday. I think that's more obviously IndyCar's protocol, and I get that, but I think it's more on the precautionary side of things because we both know with football how a head injury once can affect you long term. So I'm thinking it was more precautionary as to why IndyCar did not allow Simon Pagenaud or clear Simon Pagenaud to race on Sunday. But before we get into the 5 takeaways that I was able to draw this weekend, and we'll go through each one of those. Josh, I want to get your thoughts on watching that video I sent you with Simon Pagenaud, and then there's video of actually him in car video as well. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but what was your initial thoughts after sending you that video on Saturday?
It was shocking. It was shocking and it was frightening. Just seeing him flying through the air to begin with. Him coming off that turn and just having nothing to stop him, the brakes failing, and he was kind of gliding through the air, and then when he hit the gravel, I mean, he just started rolling, and I mean, 6.5 times. You could say 6.5 times, but you can't really imagine it. The onboard camera, I did see the onboard camera, and that looked. I can't remember who it was that flipped upside down during the 500. I thought that was terrible. Oh, this one tops it.
You're referring to Kyle Kirkwood.
Kirkwood, yes, to being upside down and grinding. This is 10 times worse than that because you don't know what you're coming up on. You're flipping and you're turning, but how fast is that fence going to come? And are you going to hit the fence with your head hitting the fence? Or are you going to hit it with the bottom of the car hitting the fence? I was talking to my uncle. Him and his friends went this past weekend to Mid-Ohio, and they were down there. And that wreck actually happened like probably 200 yards away from them. And he said when they were looking at it, they thought the worst. They hoped for the best, but they thought the worst. But that aero screen really helped them. As much as it looks really intrusive and it seems weird, that thing has saved probably countless drivers now with the technology. But the only worst crash I've ever seen live or within the last couple of years, I believe it was probably 10 or 12 years ago when Mario Andretti was going around and his car actually flipped up in the air. It was at Indy, and that getting a lot more air. But it was a frightening scene when you sent it to me when I was at work, sitting there watching it live, not watching it live, but watching the replay and then watching the onboard camera. It's frightening. I'm glad he was able to get up and walk away. And like you said, precautionary measures, your brain's rattling around as much as tight as they are in those cars, your head still can move a little bit. And even a mild concussion is would not be a ideal thing for someone to go out there and driving and all the turns and pressure it's putting on your head. So I think IndyCar made a good call by not letting Simon go back out there, and it gave Connor Daly a chance to get back out on the track.
Yeah, it absolutely did, and that leads me into, as I touched on there, the 5 takeaways that I was able to draw from this race this weekend. You can actually go over to Last Word on Motorsports, and you can find these if you're interested in reading them. But I thought the first takeaway, obviously, as you just touched on there, with Simon Pagenaud, obviously due to his accident taking place during practice on Saturday. Obviously, the IndyCar medical staff didn't clear him. And it was early Sunday morning, actually, when this news broke that Meyer Shank Racing had picked former Ed Carpenter racing driver in Noblesville, Indiana native, Connor Daly, to drive that number 60 Honda. And I thought, Josh, with the only time that Connor Daly got in that number 60 Honda was the warm up that took place right before, I think, around 10 a.m. I know Connor did have previous experience. I think this was his 8th race he's completed at Mid-Ohio. So obviously he did have some past experience, but keep in mind that one of the important turns was repaved. So all Connor had to go off of was that, half an hour, whatever that long was, warm up on Sunday before he climbed in for the race there. And obviously without being able to qualify, that car rolled off at position 27. And kudos, I think, Josh, to Connor Daly and the solid job that he did replacing Pagenaud. I believe all intents and purposes, Pagenaud will be back for Toronto in a couple weeks. But Daly drove his backside off and brought home a respectable 20th place finish in that vehicle on Sunday.
Oh yeah, that had been extremely hard for Connor just to jump in the car that quickly. I mean, I give all the credit in the world to Connor, and I also give all the credit in the world to Simon Pagenaud's pit crew and the mechanics to be able to get that car turned around and get it suited up for and situated for Daly, because as we both know, those seats are custom molded to each driver so that they're comfortable. It was a testament to everyone being able to work together and get that car ready for Sunday with only a day's turnaround from the accident on Friday. Glad Connor was able to get out there and get some more laps underneath his belt. Make a little bit more, give a little bit more footage, as we would say in the football series, in the football world. Get some more footage, get some more tape of him driving and showing what he can do. Maybe he can find a full-time ride next year with another team, since he's not he's not going to be in a car the rest of the year outside of maybe emergency replacements like he was.
And actually, a little bit of insider information, and two things. One, the car that, again, I think you can't say it enough. Like you said, kudos to Simon Pagenaud, Elio Castroneves, and actually Meyer Shank has a little bit of a partnership with Andretti Autosport as well. So kudos to all them for getting that car put back together. And the car that Connor drove in on Sunday to a 20th place finish, Josh, was actually Elio's car that he raced in the 500. I don't know if you knew that or not. And then two, speaking of Meyer Shank Racing, we'll get into this a little bit later, but Josh is going to break some news about Meyer Shank Racing and their future going forward in 2024. But something you did touch on a little bit here, and this was another takeaway that I had from the race on Sunday, and it is kudos to Dallara and the design of the aero screen, because I can't imagine the amount of injuries and long-term injuries at that for Simon Pagenaud if that aero screen hadn't been designed and installed on the Indy cars just a few years ago. And not only to Simon Pagenaud, which saved his life, but something else. And I don't know if people seen this or not, but during the race on Sunday in the opening laps, Marcus Ericsson makes a driving mistake to where his number 8 Honda failed to give Felix Rosenqvist enough room to make a pass, and which caused Ericsson's car to basically drive over the top of Felix Rosenqvist's car and get it, what has to do with the aero screen. If you were watching the TV feed on Peacock or on USA Network, Marcus Ericsson's car, the tire specifically, left a huge black mark on the aero screen, the front of the aero screen for Felix Rosenqvist. So what would have happened if that aero screen isn't there and that tire basically runs over, crushes the helmet and head area of Felix Rosenquist. What happens there? So that's why, kudos, like I said, Josh, to Dallara and to the designers of the aero screen, because it definitely, as you said, played a huge part in safety this past weekend.
Oh, definitely. That would have been tragic because a tire just driving over someone's head. It's gonna obviously compress them down back into the cockpit, which could take their eye, well, most definitely take their eyes off the road and not off the course. And you never know what could have happened. There could have been a much bigger crash. When I first saw the aero screen on the new cars, I thought that's got to be like a hindrance, but it's proven to be more and more of a big safety safety thing. Probably one of the biggest innovations to racing since the Hans device was implemented and made mandatory in NASCAR after Dale Senior's tragic passing. But I can only imagine what it was like for the driver having someone drive up over the windscreen and how distracting that was. So all kudos to Dallara and all their innovations they've come up with to make this car even more safe than it already is.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt there. And then the third takeaway that I had, we touched on this just a little bit ago. Simon Pagenaud found himself fastest on the timing charts on Friday, but Saturday obviously was a totally different story due to a mechanical failure with his number 5 Chevrolet, which basically was created by his own issues. And again, we harp on this that until Pato O'Ward decides to stop being his own worst enemy, he's going to keep shooting himself in the foot. He spun off in turn 2 in the first group of qualifying, which moved him back to the 25th starting position. Obviously, he had to go on a different strategy than what everyone else did. But O'Ward was able to pass 17 cars, finding himself in the top 5 for a few laps, and then finishing in the top 8 at 8th place. So Pato drove his tail off from what he had to where he had to start. Obviously, he had to go on a different strategy. He ends up getting the award for the most passes that NTT IndyCar presents to a driver at each race. But kudos to Pato O'Ward showing off his driving skills, Josh, from starting 25th and ended up getting a top 10 finish at 8th position.
Oh, definitely. Award, not qualifying well and starting towards the back. When I first saw it, I was like, did they misprint this? Because I've never seen Award really struggled this bad and since I've been watching. And for him to be able to take that car all the way from almost the tail end of the field all the way into the top 10, that's just a credit to Pato, and hopefully this is a taking off point for him in the season. That he's finally got through his woes, and he's going to start doing a little bit better, like you said, getting out of his own way. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to win the championship this year, because that, as we'll speak about in a couple points, that's almost sewed up. But credit to Pato, credit to his Arrow McLaren pit crew for being able to get him back out there and get him focused back on winning ways. Hopefully soon he can pull out a win. That we've got two races coming up in Iowa at the end of this month, where it gives him 2 chances in a weekend. And he was good. He was good last year at Iowa, and hopefully he can start doing a little bit better than he has been. But I think this past Sunday really gave him confidence, because it's hard to go from 25th to the top 10 and on a road course. You usually don't get that much that much. You don't gain that much on a track unless there's big wrecks or mechanical failures by a lot of people in front of you.
And speaking of momentum, and I love how you teed this up, but what a weekend that Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing had this weekend. Definitely a huge shot in the arm, I think, to say the least. But they were able to qualify all three of their cars in the top 12. So it begs the question: is this the beginning of a turnaround there at Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing? Obviously, it's been a season to forget with 0 wins. And then Christian Lundgaard sitting 10th in points, Graham Rahal 14th, and Jack Harvey 23rd. But after this race on Sunday, maybe there is, Josh, maybe there is some light there at the end of the tunnel. Lundgaard, he started 5th, finished P4. Rahal, who sat on the front row, he was P2, believe it or not, finished 7th. And then Jack Harvey, who started 11th, finished 18th. So it's going to be interesting to see coming from Mid-Ohio. This is technically this is Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing's home track, quote unquote. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue this momentum as we roll into the second half of the season.
Most definitely, Ray Hall Lanigan had a heck of a good weekend at their home track. It was good seeing Graham Rahal back up there after his problems in Indy, and seeing him up there competing for the win. Sometime, I mean, I know he wasn't exactly up there, but he was close, and he had a good race. Jack Harvey, he's a good driver. I'm always rooting for him. I always want the younger drivers to be able to get up there. And Lundgaard just chugging away. They're slowly but steadily making their way back up there. And hopefully sometime this year, one of those three can pull off a win. I'm hoping Ray Hall can win one. He's a terrific driver, and he's got a great pedigree. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they can take this momentum and take it into Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. And number one, Josh, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out number one. But I thought this headline said it best. This is Alex Palou's world, and we're just living in it. I don't know how else to put this, but that's basically what it boils down to. Is this is Alex Palou's world, and we're just living in it. After the first round of pit stops there on Sunday, Palou took the lead captured the lead rather, and he didn't look back. Captured his 3rd win in a row, 4th win of the year, and 8th of his career. He led 48 of the 80 allotted laps, basically almost leading half of the race. Palou is the first driver, Josh, to win 3 consecutive races since teammate Scott Dixon, who, believe it or not, has done this 3 times: 2007, 2013, and 2020. I keep saying, and I wrote an article about this as well, if this is Alex Palou's last year with Chip Ganassi, and again, that could be up in the air with the success that he has had. Now, he's going to get a big payday wherever he goes. I mean, that's an almost foregone conclusion. Now, obviously, he can't sign a new contract. I think it's not August or September. I can't remember which one it is. But if this is indeed his last year with Chip Ganassi Racing, and we don't know, we don't know anything about that. It's pretty tight-lipped rather over there at Chip Ganassi Racing. But if this is indeed his last go around with that organization, Josh, what a hell of a way to do a mic drop potentially at the end of the year.
Oh, most definitely. Zach Brown's got to have two different motions going through his head right now. He's got to be fearful because Ganassi, they're not a poor organization. They've got some money. So if Chip really wanted to make a run back at Pelot to be able to keep him on for next year, he could have the money. But Zach is also in the back of his mind. He's probably like, oh my God, I've most likely got the hottest prospect in auto racing, who's going to be a free agent. That he's all intents and purposes, he's already said he's going there after the whole debacle of what happened last year. Zach's probably thinks it, in part of his brain thinks he has it in the bag. The big question is going to be, if Pelot wins, which every sign's pointing to him, he's going to be able to run away with this points championship this year. If he wins, he's going to be a 2-time IndyCar champion. Does he want to come back and get a third, or is he wanting to move on to, as we would say, greener pastures and go to F1, see if he can win an F1 title? I can't remember if did Montoya, when Juan Pablo, did he win the F1 when he was there? Because I know he won IndyCar. I can't remember if he won F1's championship, but I know Juan Pablo did the F1 and he also did IndyCar, and he kind of dominated in both. But what does Pelot want to do? That's the big question. Come August, I think that's when they can start signing. Will Pelot be stay with Chip? Will he have a change of heart, or is he going to stick with Zach Brown and go on to do something else besides IndyCar?
We obviously don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's safe to say, Josh, at the end of the day, Alex Pelot has all the bargaining chips. He has everything. I think that's the only safe thing that we can say at this point is Alex Pelot definitely has all of the bargaining chips there, to say the least. But let's take a look at the results from Sunday's race, and then we'll get into some drivers we were able to catch up with this past weekend and get their thoughts on what took place on Sunday. Obviously, as we said, Alex Pelot, Scott Dixon, Will Power were your top three. Christian Lundgaard, Scott McLaughlin, David Malukas, Graham Rahal, Pato O'Ward, your highest rookie from Sunday, Marcus Armstrong, and then Alexander Rossi round out the top 10. Then it was pole sitter Colton Herta, Joseph Newgarden, Roman Grosjean, Devlin DeFrancesca, Rinus VeeKay, Callum Ilott, Kyle Kirkwood, Jack Harvey, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and Connor Daly round out your top 20. Then Elio Castroneves, Stingray Robb, Agustin Campino, Santino Ferrucci, Felix Rosenqvist, Benjamin Peterson, and Marcus Ericsson round out your rest of the 27 drivers that made up this weekend's race. So a lot has changed when it comes to points in the last time, Josh, that we took a look at them. So let's do that here before we get to some interviews. Alex Pelot sits on top with a 110-point lead over Scott Dixon. Then it's Joseph Newgarden, Marcus Ericsson, Pato O'Ward, Scott McLaughlin, Will Power, Alexander Rossi, Colton Herta, Christian Lundgaard make up your top 10. Then it's Kyle Kirkwood, Roman Grosjean, Felix Rosenqvist, Graham Rahal, Callum Ilott, Rinus VeeKay, Marcus Armstrong, Santino Ferrucci, David Malukas, Elio Castroneves make up the top 20. Then Devlin DeFrancesca, Connor Daly, Augusta Campino, Jack Harvey, Simon Pagenaud, Benjamin Peterson, Stingray Robb, Ryan Hunter-Reay make up the remaining 28 drivers. So that's your look at the points. So a lot to take care of right before we get this season finished here. Obviously, Alex Pelot with a 110-point lead, definitely going to be quite tough, I think, to catch him in between now and the races that we have remaining. Let's switch over and hear from some of the drivers that we were able to catch up with and get their thoughts on this past weekend's race.
Took our way through the fight. Got held up on our last exchange there, but annoyingly. But I think we're in a good spot. I think we're only 30 points out of second now in the championship. So can't. Pelot's doing a really good job at the moment. It's up to us and Chevy and everyone else to work hard and catch up to everyone. And really proud of the hard work. But we just need a little bit more, and we're going to be right there. So good day.
All right, we just finished up the race there, and man, that was one of the most exhausting races for me. I came in and could barely get out the car, and it was just constantly pushing throughout that entire run. It was, I'd say, a near perfect run for us to come from 12 to 6 with every guy in front of us having a lot of speed. We timed everything beautifully. I mean, from strategy to push the pass to setup. I'm just so proud of Derik Josh Racing to now we've kind of finally rebounded. We found pace in Road America, but unfortunately we had a mechanical issue and couldn't really get things done. And now we got our first Fast 12 of the season, and we took advantage of it and came out with the P6. So it feels good that everybody in the team is finally smiling again after quite some time.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, honestly, it's such a different car in dirty air for me that I just had to get used to. And it took me about 30, 40 laps to really understand how to attack in this car. And I liked it, but it's when you lose one stint in these races, it's hard to get back. So, once we got held up by Peterson, we were on the back foot, obviously. And that's my fault, but the car was amazing. I mean, once we got clean air, once we got ahead of some of those cars, I mean, it was fantastic, so fast, and at the end to be able to close in on the two cars in front of me by like seconds at a time, just felt really good. So I very much enjoyed being out there. It just felt like I could attack and drive how I want to drive, and the team did an amazing job trying to get me up to speed with only one practice.
All right, everyone. We just finished here at the race. My man here, Jim Meyer, always happy, which I like that. But in the end of the day, it wasn't the result that we wanted. 20 and 21st, Connor did an amazing job, recovering from 26. Big props for him to jump in the car and do it like what he did. But I made some decisions that are not right for the setup and just destroyed the race. Shame because, we deserve better. We're going to get it. We just can't give up.
Our race is done here in Mid-Ohio. Not the day we wanted. Simple mistakes cost us a good day. We just got to qualify better. End of story. Huge shout out to David, my teammate. He did a great race, finishing P6. Way to bring that home. So a lot to learn there. I think that we're progressing in the right direction. We learned a lot this weekend. We were quick this morning in warm-up. Just didn't translate as much to the race. So huge shout out to the crew. The number 51 Biohaven Honda crew did a good job this weekend. Kept our heads down, and we'll take that to the next one.
Huge thank you to all the drivers that were able to stop by and give us a post-race quote. I know, Josh, that makes your day seeing your favorite driver being able to stop by. But what else can we say? I think at this point, as you talked about with the championship, Alex Palou is obviously not going to come out and admit it. But it's going to take a huge gaffe on his part to waste away a 110-point lead with about 8 races left to go.
Oh yeah, he's going to have to. I think he's going to have to not finish a couple races. I mean, he's got a very comfortable lead. Not saying that any lead is actually safe, but this is a pretty safe lead. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to catch him. What can you say? The guy is having a monster year, and if he wins at Toronto, I think he could take the whole rest of the year off. He could just drive safe, finish in the top 5. He's got everything going for him right now. He's the hottest driver in any sport, any auto sport, in my opinion. And he's having one heck of a season. If this is going to be his last season in IndyCar, he's making it a hell of a good one. And he deserves it. He's kept his nose clean, hasn't got into too many any fricases with the people, with any of the drivers, and I just think he's the man right now. I mean, you can't say anything else differently. No one else has been able to step up and overtake him. But the year is still young. There's still more races, but I don't see anyone catching him. I see him cruising the rest of the year, and barring any mechanical issues and several races, he's going to walk away with the championship. It's just question is going to be how many races is he going to win, and how much is he going to win by? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me what the biggest gap ever for an IndyCar champion was, but I think he may be pushing it for this year.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't like the fact of him taking his foot off the gas, so to say, and I know I see what I did there. Because we both know, in football especially, when you start playing not to lose, you end up taking your foot off the gas, and you do end up losing. So I think Alex Palou just needs to focus on the things that he can control, and as long as he finishes consistently and doesn't get any DNFs where he doesn't pick up any points at all, as long as he finishes consistently, Josh, I think Alex Palou is going to be just fine. He's going to clinch his second NTT IndyCar Series points championship, and then I think the sky is the limit for what Alex Palou will want to do going into 2024. Before Mike joins us to recap his winnings this past weekend, we can't forget the great sponsors that make this podcast and things possible here on Push to Pass. First and foremost, Always Ready 1776. They have apparel, headwear, and so much more. Go check out alwaysready1776.com. And then if you do find something that you do want to purchase, make sure you use that promo code that you are seeing up on your screen there. Push to Pass. Let's try that again. To get 10% off of your order. And then also to the great folks over at GETTR Associates. If you are in the neighborhood, or if you're in the, if you're looking to redesign, rebuild, or remodel anything in your home, go to GETTR.com. And then as you see down there, the promo code Push to Pass, receive $250 off any design service. That's GETTR Associates at GETTR.com. And then Always Ready 1776. .com there as well. Josh, before Mike comes on, were you able to put any bets together this weekend on anything that he may have suggested? And if you did, how did you do? You may want to unmute.
Unfortunately, coming off of vacation, my funds were a little low, and we've had some other things. I did see that I did see some of the stuff he put out, but I was unable to put any money down, unfortunately. Hopefully for Toronto and Iowa, and I know I've set a couple dollars aside for when we're in Nashville to put some money down in Nashville. So hopefully that I'll be able to put some down. But no, I wasn't able to put any on this particular race.
Yeah, I didn't get obviously, I guess I should have mentioned this. I did not. I usually get a confirmation from Mike if he's coming on or not, and I haven't yet, so we may have to play it by ear. So while we wait for Mike to show up, if he is at all, I know we have some news to go through. I know you touched on something interesting about Meyer Shank Racing, and then I know I got a little bit of insight from Nate Brown of the Indy Star about the schedule for 2024. But something that was a story over the weekend, and I don't know if you caught it or not, but David Malukas, driver of the number 18 HMD Honda, did confirm, and I believe it was I believe it was to Marshall Pruitt of racer.com. And let me check this out real quick to make sure that I have everything correctly. Yes, it was Marshall Pruitt who broke this story first, Josh. But it is confirmed that IndyCar driver David Malukas will be moving on from Dale Coyne Racing at the end of the season. He signed a 2-year contract. He signed a 2-year contract with his home state team there. They're actually out of Chicago in 2022, but it looks like that contract's going to be voided out, Josh. And David Malukas is going to be one of the many free agents that we are going to see going into the off season to go into 2024.
I didn't see that, and that's it's interesting. David, he hasn't had some of the success that he was hoping, but it'll be interesting him adding his name to the long, like you said, the long list of free agents this coming year. Hopefully he'll be able to catch on a ride somewhere. Maybe he already has something set up. I'm not sure, but that is interesting, and it'll be interesting to see who Dale Coyne is able to get to replace Mr. Malukas.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Like I said, first and foremost, it is going to be interesting to see with all of the free agents that we are going to see and all the free agent movement that we're going to see. Who's going to end up where? It's definitely going to be a interesting time, and stay tuned to Push to Pass, because we will bring all of that to you. Obviously, when that happens in the off season. But he did have a great rookie campaign. The aforementioned there, David Malukas, not so much. I don't know if you want to call it the sophomore slump, as they like to say. But as you said, not as more disappointing, I think, than what David Malukas was obviously expecting coming off that rookie campaign there in 2022. Interesting story put out by Nate Brown of the Indianapolis Star. If you go over to his Twitter at @by_Nathan Brown, talking about updates on the 2024 IndyCar schedule. As of right now, the calendar, the schedule will stay at 17 races. And I think these next two, Josh, are two that were eyebrow raisers. I think for not only me, but obviously you, when I mentioned this to you before the show started. But there is talk of a postseason non-points race that is in the works in the country of Argentina, not Brazil, Argentina, that is under consideration. I want to get your thoughts on that, and there's one more bullet point that I want to go over from this article as well.
I find it interesting. It's a non-points race post. It comes after the post, and it comes after the season. You're saying?
Let me see if I can go through. I don't know if this article is behind a paywall or not. Let me see where I can find where it talks about IndyCar weighing two options for postseason non-points race in 2024.
Because I mean that's interesting to me. I don't know how would I don't know how the drivers and the teams would feel about that. That's an added expense to be able to get the cars and the haulers and everything down to Argentina. That's not a cheap thing to do. The IndyCar is going to have to, really make it a big thing, and maybe make it a big payout for the teams to be able to go.
This part here may shed some light into what you just talked about. According to Nate Brown, the event would take place at the Autodrome Tiramas del Rio Honda circuit, which also hosts the MotoGP. Should local political and investment officials land the financial package required to properly host the series pay the travel fees of series teams, which has been typically for international series events outside of Canada and Mexico, and offer the prize for the race victor, given it's not playing into the championship race. And then this is a quote from Mark Miles. Quote, Argentina is developing conversation that could be promising, said Miles, who made a trip to the country in late March this year with Juncos PEC Vice President Michael Montre and Tony Kottman. The longtime racecourse designer IndyCar has leaned on for various projects in recent years. So it would seem to me that Argentina would be the one that would come up with the money for travel expenses and to get all the equipment and cars for each team over there. It wouldn't be the team's responsibility, it'd be the country's.
Yeah, that would seem like the most that'd be the most logical thing to me, because I know with IndyCar is not a they're not a poor sport, but by any means, financially, but for teams to want to take their cars down there and incur all the expense, I would imagine Argentina would have to come up with some of, offset some of the cost. I know they want to grow the sport. I know they want to get more eyes on it, but I just don't know if going down to Argentina is going to bring more eyes that they would think they are. I mean, it'd be cool for the first year, if they're going to do it the first year, but after that, the second year comes on and the shine is off. The shine is off the rose, and is it really going to be worth it? It'd be interesting to watch, see how many people show up. I just hope they don't start to try to do this more often if they're going to do it. Trying to be like F1. F1 has races all over the world, and they have the financial backing. I just don't know if IndyCar has the financial backing to be able to pull something off like this every year. But we shall see. It'd be interesting. I don't know if they would make it mandatory for all teams to show up, or if certain teams wouldn't want to show up. So would they be forced to? It'll be interesting. We'll have to keep following the developments of this.
And the last bullet point on this, and then a point I want to make, Roger Penske reveals that talks have been had with Australia as well too for a race. So interesting article there by Nathan Brown of the Star. Go check that out. But the one thing that comes to mind with this, Josh, and we've talked about it here on numerous occasions. It's fine and it's fine and great if IndyCar wants to expand to these other countries. If that's what IndyCar wants to do, that's fine and dandy. But what about the races here in the United States where you've already been before? Michigan comes to mind, Milwaukee, Pocono. If you have a desire to do races outside of the United States, that's great. You move your product, and obviously the goal is to get as many eyes on it as possible. That's great. But what about the tracks here that you've been at before, that the cars may not have been as safe as they are now, as they've proven to be this past weekend? What about those tracks? Why is the talk going to other countries when I just rattled off 3 that IndyCar used to race at that I think should take a hard look at going back to?
Well, if indeed the Argentinian government is looking into actually funding this, I forget who we talked to. I can't remember if it was Mark Janes or if it was Jake Query, who was saying that essentially all the tracks, they have to go out and get their own funding for the races. They have to get their own sponsorships and all that. So there just may not be anyone in those particular areas that like Michigan or Pocono or other ones that they've done that want to go out there and do the legwork to get the races back there. If Argentina is the government of Argentina is reaching out and saying, "Hey, we have the funding, we can get this going." That's probably why they're wanting to go there. I'm not really familiar with every driver's nationality. Are there any Argentinian drivers on the circuit on racing for NTT?
Augustine Canapino.
Yeah, okay. He's fantastic. I mean, he's a much better driver than I'll ever be. But is that really a big draw? I mean, are people from Argentina going to show up to the race to see Campino? Whereas you were talking about Australia, you've got a couple drivers. Scott Dixon comes to mind. He's from around that area, and I think people would travel far, even from New Zealand and all over from Australia to come see it. So I do agree. I would love for them to start going to other tracks, having more races. 17 to me is not enough, but that's just because I grew up on NASCAR racing pretty much every weekend. But we'll see. I'm always up for new tracks coming back, new tracks or old tracks coming out. I know I can guarantee I will never go to Argentina to go watch a race. That's a little bit out of my budget, but we'll see. You have a good point. Why not get some of these other tracks back in play so that we have more races, more eyeballs, more money.
And you got to think too, just to wrap up this, and then I know you have some news as well. But obviously, Michigan, we know how deeply rooted Michigan is, obviously in racing and in the automobile industry. So that's why I think that would be a huge draw. I mean, just look at the attendance for the Detroit Grand Prix this year. That was a huge success for the first time in quite a while, having it downtown. And then you talk about Pocono, which is in Pennsylvania, Nazareth, Pennsylvania. That's where the Andretti's are from. So that's where you'd have your ties there too. So like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how this does evolve. If IndyCar does decide Argentina or Australia, for that matter, definitely keep it here, and we'll discuss this more as this unfolds. But I know before we wrap things up for this episode, Josh, I know you talked about something interesting before we went on air.
Yeah, I was scrolling through Facebook today, and on the Meyer Shank Racing IndyCar page, this was reported by a New Track Record podcast. Says a source tells us Meyer Shank Racing will run Tom Blomqvist, I hope that's how you pronounce that, and a current Chip Ganassi driver next year full time in IndyCar, with Castroneves running the 500, and then underneath that it had a tweet from Nate Brown. Mike Shank says one of MSR's 2 IndyCar drivers for 2024 is finalized and to be announced in August. So, and somebody had made the comment, could the second driver besides Blomqvist be Marcus Ericsson or Armstrong? I'm not sure those two's contract situations, but I just thought that was interesting.
You're missing one. Think about who the fourth entry was, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but think about who the fourth entry was for Chip Ganassi Racing for the 500 this year. Who was it?
Was it? The young lady. Was it the young lady?
No, that was Ray Hall Letterman Land. Takuma Sato.
Takuma Sato. Could be Takuma. Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, that's a possibility. It does not make anything specific. It just says that it's a current Chip Ganassi driver, will be full-time next year in IndyCar along with Blomqvist. So it'll be interesting to watch and see if come August who the new driver is going to be.
Yeah, and for people that are unfamiliar with Tom Bloomquist, if you watch Meyershank Racing the last few years, the success that they've had specifically at the 24 hours of Daytona, or the Rolex 24, I believe that's what the official name is. I believe that team, along with Simon Pagenaud, Elio Castroneves, and I can't think of the other driver's name right offhand, it's a younger individual. I believe they've won this 2 or 3 years in a row. So that is interesting to see Bloomquist's name being put out there. Going to watch and see how this develops. And it makes me wonder, I guess I would imagine by the way this is written, Pagenaud is going to be on his way out from Meyershank Racing. And obviously Elio Castroneves is just going to do the 500. I know I've said on here, and again, I have nothing to confirm on this, but it would not surprise me to see Tony Kanaan and Elio Castroneves at some point put some type of racing team together. When that'll be, I have no idea, but it would not surprise me the least for sure. Josh, before we wrap things up, anything else that you want to go over here real quick before the checkered flag drops and we get on out of here?
I'm excited to see Toronto. Toronto is going to be a fun time. I can't wait. We're going to be covering that next week on back to our regular time on Tuesdays. Recording. Can't wait to do that. Once again, another track I'll be able to watch and watch the full race, and getting excited. We're revving up to the beginning of August, and we're going to be down in Nashville. I just drove by there on my way back from Florida, and got me excited. Can't wait. First time we'll be able to go to Nashville and watch the race. So I'm excited. We're coming down to some great races: Toronto, Iowa, and then Nashville. So it's revving up to be a good season.
Yeah, and then don't forget the other stop, the road course there in Indy as well. So
yep.
Definitely a lot of good racing ahead of us here as we get into the second half of the season. Can't wait to get down to Nashville the first weekend in August. Love it down there. The people are fantastic. Obviously, being a bigger guy, food down there is fantastic as well. If you see us eating at one of the barbecue joints or one of the bars down there, stop in and say hi. Don't be afraid. But also, too, you are right. We're going to get back to our normal schedule next week on Tuesday. I hope everyone had a happy, safe 4th of July. Make sure you got all your limbs. And there you go, right there. And that does it for this week's episode. Huge thank you to all of the drivers that were able to stop by and give us a post-race quote. Huge thank you to Josh and everyone else here behind the scenes that makes each week possible. For myself, Josh, and everyone else here, like I said, at the Push to Pass podcast, the checkered flag is out, and we will be back in 1 week's time to preview the NTT IndyCar Series at Toronto. Until then, so long, everybody.